Hello everybody. Okay, so this next video is how to draw instead of a single object by itself and breaking it down and all that. You're still going to do that, but how to draw three objects together that some are overlapping, meaning in front of or behind or next to, where to start, what's the first stage, all that. And this is going to be in the introduction into the project. There will also be other videos about other objects to draw, such as like I might do a video about a banana or something like that, something things that aren't so symmetrical or cube-like or cylindrical. We'll get to that in another time, but for now, how do you break this down? How do you understand this? First thing you want to think about is large to small, big to little. And that's one way of going about it. Also, you want to establish a point of reference. Your point of reference is the one object that you're going to use in terms of its height and width, its proportion, to build the other objects from. So, my point of reference could be either this guy or it could be this guy. You would say probably this guy because it's bigger, right? And I would not make it this guy, it's too small. So if you use this as a point of reference to build from, so if you try to measure this and it's equal to two of those or something of that nature, it's not going to translate well, everything's going to be slightly off. So you want to go something that's really easy to measure, a simple formula you can understand, and you can get the proportions exactly right. So I'm going to go with this guy probably because that's easy to measure. And in terms of, well, that's a whole nother thing. But I want to fit this on my drawing paper so you can see without me going in there. So I'm probably going to draw everything within here. But I can kind of rough this in a little bit, saying like, all right, I want this to be here, I want to end here. Everything else will probably be about here and here. So I'm kind of marking off where I'm going to work within a little bit. But what I'm going to do right now is just draw this guy first. I'm going to keep him about right here. Because if I were to measure this and count how many times it takes to get to the far right side, I want to fit this in. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to measure with my left hand. 1, 2, 3, 3.5. See if this counts in 3.5. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I don't want this big. I want this about this big from here to here. 1, 2, 3.5. And I should be able to fit this in. The height's not a big deal. It's gonna be from here to here. I'm not really too concerned about that. It's the width, and I want you to go to see me draw. So I had to pre-plan it out a little bit. So I'm trying to get the width of this, and that's gonna make the proportion of everything else. If I made this too wide, I'd fall off the drawing paper. So what I'm gonna do now is just, since I have established my width, right? And basically this is what I wanted to do. I just measured this width and I counted it 1, well, including it itself, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This counts 5 because I'm not parallel to the plane. The camera's on an angle this way, I'm on an angle this way. But from my viewpoint, looking directly here, that's what counts, that's what I counted, 3.5. Okay, so now I'm going to measure the width of this bottle, which I've already done a video about that. I'm just going to kind of work quickly now. 1, 2, 2 3/4. So if this is my width, right, that I've established already, and I think I can just get away with making that my bottom. And if I were to take the width here and go 1, 2, 3, but it was a little less than 3. It's right here. That's basically my height, because from my viewpoint, and I think yours in the camera, the height of this is the highest form out of all this stuff. The lower part of this is pretty darn close to the lower part of that. It's not that far away. So my composition might go down here, and it's only going to end here. So I'm kind of perfect where I want to be within my paper. I'm good to go. Now I can just draw straight lines down. And this is the one I designated, and a straight line across. This is the bottle. And from here, I can start to figure everything else out. So this is my point of reference. Keep the right point of reference on it. I'm not going to start to break the bottle down yet. I don't want to do that yet. I want to start just to get the height and width, the proportion of every object. So it's just going to be 3 rectangles here. Looking for the height of every, or the height and width of every form. Next thing I'm going to do is this guy. The distance between here is too far for me to figure out where that is. I'm going to just draw that guy. It's a lot easier. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to, I'm going to do it right there in the screen. Sorry, I'm doing my left hand. I'm trying to, I can't do it with my left hand. I'm using the pencil and I'm putting it on top of that bottle, right? And I'm making a perfectly horizontal line. Look at the distance between the bottom of the pencil and the top corner of that box. It's, you know, it's about that much. So what I'm going to do, you can also use a ruler. Put it on top of the, look at the distance. I'm going to guess and say, looks like it's about that far lower. And what I'm going to do, what I do is I can actually measure the top of this line here, slide my thumb down to the corner, and compare it to the width of the bottle. Yeah, wasn't that much. It was about right here. So it's a little less than what I thought. So I'm going to run a line across. That represents the back of that form. What is also unique about this is that, so in the camera, if you see the negative space, I'm trying to point it right here, the negative space between the bottle and the box is almost the same distance as the bottle itself. But from my point of view, I don't see it that way unless I angle myself here, and I still don't see it that way unless I get right in front of the camera. So my viewpoint's a little bit different, but there is a space. There's a little bit of a space, and it's about, and what I'm doing right now is I'm measuring the negative space between the bottle and the box. And what can I compare it to? I can only compare it to something I have drawn. Hence point of reference. You always refer to this and compare your measurements to. So I'm measuring the distance between the bottle and the cardboard box. And I'm going to count how many times that is in the bottle itself. 1, 2, a little bit more than 2. So if it counts a little bit more than 2, it's less than half. So if that's half, so it's probably like right a little bit less than 2. So it's like right here. So I can take my pencil and using my hand as a marker, bring it over here, mark it. I just found the left side of this box. I don't know where this is. I don't know where this is yet, but I'm going to figure that out. At least I have this distance correct, and it's based off the proportion of this guy. You can see I can slowly build this up. Next thing I'm going to do is, it's hard to see, but I'm looking for that corner right here, because that represents the bottom, the flat line at the very bottom. So I'm trying to find that, and it looks like it's pretty close in line with the bottom of this guy. So if I were to get my pencil and put it on the bottom of the bottle, the bottle's actually a little lower than the corner of that. From my viewpoint, the bottle's even lower, so I'm gonna pull it down a little bit more, but I'm putting my line on the bottom of the bottle. And I'd say the bottle is about that much lower. So I can run this line across. Once I establish this, I'm going to double check the height and width of this box itself. But how do I know when this ends? I don't know where it ends. I mean, I will, but right now I don't. I could do one of two things. I could measure the width of this, which is the width of the bottle, and count how many times that is into the box and find it that way. Or I could just get the individual measurements of the box, because I already have the height, and then I can figure out how many times the height is into the width. I'm gonna do both, because that's how you check yourself. So what I'm gonna do is measure the distance of the width of the bottle, and I'm gonna see how many times it counts into the width of the box. 1, 2, say 2.5, a little less than 2.5. So let's see what we have here. 1, 2. It's funny because it's kind of right where I was going to put the line. That looks like it might be the line. But before I commit to that, I'm going to double check the individual proportion of the box itself. That's how you check your math. So remember, the height was the short side. There we go. So it's basically, it's not a perfect square, but it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's 1 to 1.25. So it's a little longer than it is high. So it should count, the width is 1. And if I put this down, and in this case, my pencil's not long enough, so I have to use something that's long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this ruler. I'm literally gonna draw on the ruler, put it down here, and put a mark here. And then this is 1, and it was a little bit more. So I'm looking pretty good. That math works itself out. I'm good there. Now I can start to focus on this guy. Where does this exist? Now I have 2 points of reference to build from. This is my home base. I'm going to use the bottle as my main guy, but I can still use this too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this line here just like so. That pencil line, actually let me try to make it. That pencil line, if that line went on forever, when would it intersect with this guy? So what I'll do, I'll try to do that right now. So if I had a pencil line that's right on the top, and I'm trying to make it a horizontal line, where does it intersect the wine bottle? Now remember, the camera is kind of like on a diagonal like this, so that's probably where it is, but I'm gonna have to do it from my viewpoint. I'm holding my pencil with 2 hands. I'm just using the center, and I'm just trying to see exactly where on the bottle does the top of that intersect. And it looks like it intersects right here. So I'm gonna remember that. I'm actually gonna put the tip of my pencil on that part and slide my thumb down to the bottom part of the bottle, and then go up top there and see if it's like the halfway point. It's not the halfway point. It's a little bit below halfway. So if this is the halfway point, I bet you it's like right here. I think it's a good guess to say that top of this salt shaker is there. I don't know where along here, it's over here somewhere, but at least I know where the top is. So I'm just making a big long line. All right, the bottom of it, if I drew a line straight across, is a little bit lower, meaning towards me, lower on the drawing, excuse me, than the bottle itself. So what, basically, if I were to have a pencil, see how far down it is? It's pretty far down. But here it's not as far down. For me, it's about right here. So I'm gonna run a line across this way. Now, what I could do is measure how many widths of these bottles. This is how far that is away. And I think I'm gonna do that because I don't have any of this information drawn in yet, so I can't use the corner to line something up. So I'm just going to use the width of this. So I'm going to measure the width of the bottle again. 1. I'd say it's like 1 to a heavy 1.5. So that's the width. That's 1. That would be 2. So I say half of that. And I said a heavy 1.5, so it's like right here. So this is the halfway point. That's 1, that's 2, this is the halfway point, and I just went over to the right of the halfway point. Now I'm putting a line. That represents this line right here. Now I can take the width of this guy and compare it to the width of that guy to figure out where this is. So what I'm going to do is take the width of the salt checker and count it into the width of my point of reference. 1, 2, it was like 1 to a heavy 1.5. So I'm just going to fake it, or guess, not fake it, guess it. 1 to a heavy 1.5. So yes, so this feels like it's the salt shaker here. Does that make sense? So this is my composition. This is the proportion, location of everything. And then after this, I break it down. I break down these objects. I break down this like I did in the previous video. I break down this and I break down this. And that will take a whole another video, so I'm just going to stop here. But this is stage 1. This is kind of the very beginning of drawing a still life. But this is a practice still life. This is the very beginning. So don't worry about breaking the stuff down. It's trying to figure out where these things exist. If you want, you can erase some of these lines just to get a sense of where they are. And one last thing, just to double check. You can measure this and see how many times it counts into that guy. I'm going to see if it should count in twice, and it does. It counts in twice. It's kind of perfect. So it worked out. That's it.